Good morning, Copers. Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Tears Week. LP has great taste in black music. Brother, that is white music, okay? That's the music your dad used to jam to when you were just a glimmer in his eye. And he was in the process of making you with your mom. Blood, sweat, and tear. Okay, you tell me, bro. You tell me. Do these guys look black to you? Okay, do they look black? Does that look like a bunch of blacks to you? It's Blood, Sweat, and Tears Week. Get with the program. Yes, an entire week. Yes. If you weren't here on Saturday, you missed going down gambling. So that's on you. Classic. How you guys doing? It's Monday. New episode of YCSP last night. 3.5 hours. No biggie. No big deal. Just 3.5 hours long. Also, the progress report returning this week will be on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific with guest Sarah Stock. And I'm not sure who else. I'm still trying to get the other guest, but we'll get someone. Let's get into it. Sound on. You're hearing the first howl of a dire wolf in over 10,000 years.
The Cat Respecter sent $5.
Yo, thank you, Cat Respecter. The dire wolf's been extinct for over 10,000 years. These two wolves were brought back from extinction using genetic edits derived from a complete dire wolf genome meticulously reconstructed by Colossal. That's the company here, Colossal Biosciences. From ancient DNA found in fossils dating back 11,500 and 72,000 years. What could possibly go wrong here? This is definitely not how sci-fi horror movies usually start. Is it supposed to have two heads? So, sure, they're cute when they're a day old. Just wait until they're wreaking havoc, Jurassic Park style. This is how Jurassic Park started. And how did that turn out? Yeah, exactly. 49-year-old man in New York City, reportedly a relative, I heard uncle, the uncle of 4 young girls attacked them with a meat cleaver while the mother was out.
911 for an assault in progress. The 11-year-old caller stated that she...
Whoa.
And people still believe Stargate was just a TV show.
$50. Thank you, RDX. Big supporter of the show. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And her sibling.
I don't really remember Stargate. I remember Stargate, but only vaguely, very vaguely. So I don't know if there was like some lore joke in there I was supposed to get or what.
Had been stabbed by her uncle. She did not know her address. Quick-thinking police communications technicians at the 911 call center use the technology at their disposal to get an address from the location of the phone that the child was using. Based on that information...
11-year-old child didn't know her own address. Is that normal? I feel like I knew my address when I was 11, but I don't know.
Officers responded to 1671 84th Street in the confines of the 6-2 precinct. When officers and EMS arrived, they were led into the first floor by an uninjured child and led into a small vestibule facing 2 more doors. At that point, They heard screams coming from behind the door to their left and immediately began forcing their way into the apartment, kicking down the door. Once they entered, they encountered a man standing near the entrance holding a large meat cleaver covered in blood, and they could see blood on the floor and the walls of the home. The officers ordered the man to drop the weapon several times. He refused and advanced towards them. Two officers discharged their firearms, firing 7 total rounds between them and striking the subject, ending the threat. This encounter is captured on body-worn camera video. Inside the apartment, officers found 4 female victims aged 16, 13, 11, and 8.
Asians, well, we don't know. They haven't released the identity of the suspect, so it's unclear. I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess black. But who knows? Who knows? It's definitely not guaranteed.
All had serious slash and stab wounds, and responding officers and EMS provided emergency medical care.
I mean, hacking up your nieces, your young nieces with a meat cleaver, that's incredibly fucked. So I'm going to guess black. Oh, shit.
On scene before the victims were removed to Maimonides Hospital. At this time, all 4 children, thank God, are expected to survive.
Muslim would also track.
But this could have ended very differently.
Perhaps Muslim black. Perhaps that's more precise
Sir Thomas
guess.
Lycanthrope sent $10. Do you want werewolves? This is how you get werewolves.
I feel like I've seen this. Is this Black Mirror? This is the Black Mirror episode, right? From the last season where they said, fuck the sci-fi theme. The whole point of this show was like technology gone awry. And then in the last season, they were like, yeah, fuck all that. Let's do werewolves and demons. Thank you for the $10.
Officers and EMS arrived at the door within minutes of receiving the 911 call.
Anyway, all right. So, yeah, we don't know the victims. Somebody said it was an honor killing because they wouldn't get married. I think the 11-year-old was the oldest out of the victims, maybe. The others were like quite young, so I mean, I don't know about that one, but we'll keep y'all posted on any pending updates. Okay. Dan Arieli slided into my DMs a few days ago. He says, slid into my DMs. He says, my name is Dan Arieli. Not even a hi, by the way. My name is Dan Arieli, and I'm a social scientist specializing in behavioral economics at Duke University. I noticed some of your posts. If you hold anti-Semitic views, I want to have real discussions about these topics. To be clear, I don't want to argue or persuade. I simply want to understand. There are many people with anti-Semitic ideas worldwide, and I hope I can learn a lot from listening to them carefully. If you would be open to a 15-minute conversation, that would be great. So, yeah, I got it too, Eon. I got it. Thank you, though. Luan Chen. Oh, shit. It was an Asian. Maybe the person already knew that. Did you already know that, or was that just a good call?
Begin with that attack in Brooklyn. Brooklyn, 4 young girls stabbed and slashed with a knife and a meat cleaver.
Police say it could have been worse if not for the bravery of one of the victims, who, despite her injuries, called 911 before police responded and shot the suspect. Eyewitness News reporter Lucy Yang is in Bensonhurst with details. Lucy.
Well, Tanya and Joe, the family's home behind me is still an active crime scene at this late hour. This after a horrific attack on the children inside. A violent nightmare shattered a quiet Sunday morning in Bensonhurst as 4 terrified girls were slashed and stabbed inside their home. Police believe the machete and knife-wielding monster was not a stranger, but an uncle who lived with them.
I see, the clothes, everything is in blood, a lot of blood.
The victims, we're told, were only 8, 11, 13, and 16 years old. So young, but not completely helpless. Somehow, the 11-year-old was able to call 911.
The 11-year-old caller stated that she and her siblings had been stabbed by her uncle. She did not know her address.
Technology directed police to 1671 84th Street, where they heard screams, broke down the door, and opened fire.
They encountered a man standing near the entrance holding a large meat cleaver covered in blood, and they could see blood on the floor and the walls of the home. The officers ordered the man to drop the weapon several times. He refused and advanced towards them. 2 officers discharged their...
She Lamb tells us her father-in-law took the frightened child into his home and cared for him until it was safe.
I was just shivering and scared and kind of crying a little bit. So just brought him in and we gave him a coat.
Wow, well, several racist points awarded to Cat Respecter for accurately identifying it as Asian.
And some socks because we're wearing slippers, and gave him some water and a sandwich.
Thankfully, all the girls are expected to survive. 3 of them, the 8-year-old, 11, and 13, are believed to be actual nieces of the 49-year-old man who was shot by police. The uncle is also expected to survive. We're live in Brooklyn tonight. I'm Lucy Yang for Channel 7 Eyewitness.
That's a shame. How do you shoot a dude 7 times at close range and he survives? Luan Chen has a history of mental illness. All right, well, there you go. Okay, so anyway, back to this. So I replied to Dan Ariel, who tells me he wants to have a conversation about anti-Semitism, and I said, hey, I know a guy who's an expert. I don't really know anti-Semitism, but I have a friend who's an expert, Corey Mahler. Would you like to come on my channel and have an in-depth discussion? We can go for 1 or 2 hours. We can get right down into the weeds. We can start with Holocaust denial and go from there. What do you say? And he left me on red. He, 3 days ago, he saw my message. He never replied, which... First of all, let me just say that's incredibly rude, okay? You come into my DMs, you send a message request asking for a conversation. I reply to you and I'm like, hey, why don't we do it this way? And then you just ghost me. You can't even be bothered to tell me why you don't want to do that. That's too much trouble. Why am I anti-Semitic? Well, let's start with you have no basic etiquette, brother. Let's start with your total lack of common courtesy, basic etiquette, and the civil manners of polite society. You message me, and then you can't even reply when I take the time out of my day to get back to you. But this guy's he's obviously so full of shit. Hey, man, I'm not trying to debate. I just want to understand. The problem with anti-Semites is they keep their cards so close to their chest. Well, what motivates them? What is their reasoning? If only they would tell us, but they're so secretive. It's come on, who are you kidding, man? I know exactly what this guy is doing. This guy is an academic and an author. You can see he put out a book a couple years ago or like a year and a half ago called Misbelief. What makes rational people believe irrational things? And so what he wants to do is he wants to have in private conversations with anti-Semites where he can get like a soundbite or a quote essentially for like a book or a paper where you're saying something irrational, and then he can be like, oh, I had hundreds of or dozens of conversations with anti-Semites, and the one common thread is that they're all like detached from reality, right? And if the conversation is public, you can't do that. You can't cherry pick and falsify the data, which is probably a big problem for Dan Ariely or Arieli, which he looks like this, by the way. I don't know if you guys caught this. This is what he looks like. I guess he was like an IDF soldier, and some like a bomb went off, and he can't grow a beard on half of his face, but he decided to just roll with it. Again, not the right call, dude. Shave that shit off. Nobody wants to see it. It doesn't look good. You know, again, common courtesy. The golden rule. Would you want to look at this? No, then why are you making me look at it? How about a little common courtesy? But this guy, before he became an expert in misinformation, irrationality and misbelief, he was an expert in honesty and honesty research. And some of you may remember a scandal from a couple years ago, even if you don't remember him specifically, where a paper on honesty was retracted when they discovered that the data had all been falsified. Well, guess what? He's the guy. Here's them covering this on NPR.
In Washington, I'm Esther Chamakili. A federal judge in Maryland is ordering the Trump administration.
This is wrong. Restart.
This next story begins with a basic truth. Academic research sometimes falls apart. The data don't hold up or results can't be replicated in further studies. People make honest mistakes. But there's also a bigger deal. Dishonest mistakes. Fabricated data. Nick Fountain from NPR's Planet Money podcast brings us the story of a massive scandal in the field of behavioral science.
Duke professor Dan Ariely is one of the biggest stars of behavioral science. A lot of Ariely's research is focused on how we can get people to be more honest. One of his solutions, prime people to think about honesty before you need them to tell the truth. Ariely tested this in a very clever way. For a paper, he partnered with this insurance company. Periodically, they sent their car insurance customers a form, asking them to report their latest odometer readings, and then at the bottom, sign that it was the truth. Ariely tried moving that signature from the bottom of the form to the top, and he said that made people more honest. Here's Ariely.
Think about it. Just signing something a second before you fill the number, not you, other people, dramatically changes the level of cheating.
And this is where the story gets weird.
Dramatic.
A few years ago, Yuri Simonson and his colleagues at the blog Data Colada, known for their investigations into research, got a tip. Something was fishy in Ariely's paper.
Yeah, so Data Colada is this group that they started to like research academic fraud, and they find so much fraud like everywhere they look. That's a whole other story.
Take a look.
So it was just self-evidently faked.
Self-evidently faked. Here was the tell. Normally, you'd expect most people to drive a medium amount, say like 14,000 miles a year, and way fewer people to drive very little or a lot. But in Ariely's data, the same number of people drove around 1,000 miles as 10,000 as 50,000.
It's just so, I've never seen anything so blatant in my life. It's just incredible. Like,
so as far as smoking gun evidence goes, this for you is like, this is it.
Yeah, nothing will ever match this.
Simonson's team wrote to the paper's original authors, told them they suspected the data was fake.
So almost immediately, Dan Ariely replied and said, just to be clear, I was the only person responsible for this in this team.
This meaning Ariely was responsible for getting the data from the insurance company, but Ariely wasn't taking responsibility for forging the data. He basically blamed the insurance company. His numbers, he said, came from them. Still, he and his co-authors retracted the paper. Now, for years, the Hartford, the insurance company, hasn't responded directly to Arieli's claim. But a couple of days ago, the company was finally willing to go on the record. They told us in a statement that they'd pulled the data set they'd sent to Arieli, and it looked dramatically different from the one in Arieli's paper. The company said that they had only given him data for about 3,700 policies, but in Arieli's paper, he cited data for more than 13,000.
Something that's funny about this is when this scandal first broke, that they said the data was fake, the university, Duke, maybe, or whatever university the paper was done under, they investigated Dan Ariely, and they said they concluded that they couldn't prove that it was intentional, that he might have just been given bad data. That's because the insurance company took so long that they concluded the investigation before actually seeing the proof that he had in fact fabricated the data.
I got the data file from the insurance company, Arieli said in a statement. Getting the data file was the extent of my involvement with the data. While we can't say with certainty who falsified the dataset, the Hartford statement makes it clear the company believes the change occurred after it was sent to Arieli. Quote, though some of the data in the published study data is originally sourced from our data, it is clear the data was manipulated inappropriately and supplemented by synthesized or fabricated data. Fabricated data in a study about honesty. You can't make this stuff up. Or can you? Nick Fountain, NPR News.
Very interesting. One more observation in my Jew log.
So, here's something interesting. Across regions of the continental U.S., whites tend to have higher fertility in places that are more homogeneously white. Homogeneously. Yeah, that's how I say it. Homogeneously. Some people say homogeneously, but not me. Anyway, what's interesting about this is it's not like a linear line when you look at it. You need your area to be like 75% white to really start to get the effect, roughly. Like it kind of curves up, not like a hockey stick. It's not that extreme, but it does like start to curve up a little more dramatically after the 75%. So when people tell you we need to import we need immigrants to make up for the lack of birth rate, it's actually the immigrants are actually part of the reason that the birth rates are down, because white people want to have kids in white communities, where it's safe, where their children will be relatively safe. Boys Beware, 1961 film teaching boys to stay home from predatory homosexuals. Stay safe. We used to be a proper country. We used to put out real PSAs.
That looks innocent enough, doesn't it? Lots of young people hitchhike. Seems like a good way to get from one place to another. But sometimes there are dangers involved that never meet the eye. So no matter where you meet a stranger, be careful if they are too friendly. One never knows when the homosexual is about. Let's take the case of Jimmy Barnes. Jimmy played baseball all afternoon, and he didn't feel like walking home, so he decided to thumb a ride. He'd done it 100 times before, and he didn't think anything was unusual when the driver struck up a friendly conversation. In fact, he seemed like a real nice guy. What Jimmy didn't know was that Ralph was sick. A sickness that was not visible like smallpox, but no less dangerous and contagious, a sickness of the mind. You see, Ralph was a homosexual, a person who demands an intimate relationship.
I haven't seen this, so I didn't know how hard they were going to go, but sickness of the mind goes pretty hard.
Relationship with members of their own sex. So no matter where you meet a stranger, be careful if they are too friendly, if they try to win your confidence too quickly, and if they become overly personal. One never knows when the homosexual is about. He may appear normal.
But he ain't. Good stuff. should be required viewing for every child still to this day. And speaking of homosexuals, Idaho has authorized the death penalty by firing squad for pedophiles. So that's good. You know, nature is healing. You love it. You love to see it. Is anybody surprised by this? Kevin Sorbo tweets out the whatchamacallit, Poly Market betting for which country will Trump lower tariffs on first, with Israel being way ahead of the pack in the odds. And Kevin Sorbo says, is anybody surprised by this? Base Kevin Sorbo, who I knew was based as soon as I saw he was following me. What are you implying? The person with the Israel... Hey, buddy, cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks. What are you trying to say here exactly? That Trump loves to suck off Israel. Any other questions? Pretty straightforward if you ask me. They keep their cards so close to their chest. What do you mean? I just want to understand. Let's have a discussion. I want to learn from you. And speaking of lying too, the IDF, in a new controversy, they killed a bunch of paramedics about a month ago. Not March 23rd, so like a couple, 2-3 weeks ago. And they said that the paramedics didn't have their lights on their vehicles. They were encroaching suspiciously. And then somebody found like cell phone video on one of the bodies that completely, you're never going to believe this, but completely contradicts everything the IDF said. They did have their lights on, etc., and they were clearly dressed as paramedics. I'm not going to play the whole video because there's like a lot of gunshot. It's not like super graphic, but it's enough to like give me problems on the stream. Israeli military changes account of Gaza paramedics killing after video of attack. Yeah, whoops-a-daisy. Whoops-a-daisy. We made a mistake. Israel's military has backtracked on its account of the killing of 15 Palestinian medics in Gaza last month after footage contradicts its claim that their vehicles did not have emergency signals on when Israeli troops opened fire. The military said initially it opened fire because the vehicles were advancing suspiciously on nearby troops without headlights or emergency signals. An Israeli military official speaking on condition of anonymity in line with regulations late on Saturday said that account was mistaken. Whoops-a-daisy. Oh, you found video? Oh, man, we're just learning this for the first time, too. That's weird. That's weird. Oh, they had their lights on? That's weird. Israel's military admits it made mistake over killing of Gaza medics. Whoops-a-daisy. We accidentally killed them despite them being clearly marked, and then we also accidentally lied about it. My bad. You got me. My bad. And then Donald Trump tweeted this out a few days ago. These Houthis gathered for instructions on an attack. Oops, there will be no attack by these Houthis. They will never sink our ships again. And so this has caused a bit of a controversy on social media because a lot of people are saying that this was actually a tribal gathering of Yemenis. This is what they do. Like this woman says, They were just villagers celebrating Eid el-Fitr, and you bombed them. This is a war crime. You are a criminal. You promised to end the war, but instead you fueled it. You're a liar and a hypocrite. Some of the like debunkings from the pro-Israel side, or whatever this is, what the MAGA side, whoever these people are. I mean, this guy's got like Hebrew looking shit in his name, so I'm going to guess Jew. But he says, let's break it down. Eid el-Fitr was March 30 or 31st, depending on the region. So timing doesn't add up. What are you talking about, dude? That's like fucking like 5 days ago. What do you think? Like, because Trump tweeted it, the bombing must have happened 8 minutes before he tweeted. Like, this video is posted on April 4th, but you're referring to a religious holiday that happened like 4 days ago. That just doesn't add up. Maybe the bombing was 4 days ago, dude. Did you ever think of that? The gathering was at night as shown by night vision footage. I mean, I guess maybe that seems like helicopter footage, like, or whatever. This, I don't know if this is a helicopter, but like every time I've seen any military footage, it always looks night vision. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just remembering that wrong, but anyway. Yemeni media says Trump shared footage of a U.S. strike on a religious gathering. Yemen's Saba news agency reported that footage shared by President Trump that showed a U.S. airstrike in Yemen hit a religious gathering, not a Houthi military meeting, as the president claimed. And a lot of people were posting images like this. This one's from the alt-hype. So these are just, if you Google like Yemeni tribal meeting or whatever, you'll see a lot of images like this. And it does seem, okay, if your plan, just hear me out. Now, but first I'll say some of the images, if you Google this, they're like holding assault rifles and shit like that. AK-47s and shit like that. So in some of the images that come up, they're going to be armed, for what it's worth. But so you get a lot of these, though. A lot of this standing in a big circle kind of thing. And that seems like a weird way to conduct a military meeting to me. If I'm rallying my troops to plan to discuss war tactics because we're about to go attack an American ship, I'm like a coach I'm like, bring it in, guys. Hey team, bring it in, huddle up. I need to talk. I'm not like, hey guys, form a large circle about 100 feet long all around me, and I'll just yell really loud and hope everyone hears it. I don't know, man. I'm not a military genius like I assume all Muslims are, but it just seems like a weird way to conduct your military tactics meeting, to have people in a giant circle all around you. Yemeni military says, does the United States take pride in such an act? It was a tribal gathering that had nothing to do with your ships. You failed to achieve any military targets, so you bombed civilians. And then he posts like similar images of these gatherings. And it's funny, if you go into the reply of this tweet, it's all people being like, that photo's something else. That photo was taken in 2019 or 2022 or whatever. And it's like, is it possible the interpretation here is not, this is the actual photo of the bombed people, but rather this is what it looks like when they do these religious gatherings? So again, it's like the debunkings are so crazy, man. Like, that was 4 days ago. The timeline doesn't add up. Or the picture you posted is an old picture. That's not the exact image of the people who just got bombed. Not the most compelling arguments, but they like, this is why there's no point talking to people on Twitter, man. Really? This is a photo from 2019. Nice try. Not the same amount of people. Vehicles aren't the same. The two, it's, you know, they're like forensic fucking experts. Like, nice try, buddy, but that's not the exact same gathering. Where's the vehicle? And there's like hundreds of comments like this. Anyway, so that happened. You know, maybe not the best look when you're the anti-war president. You know, a lot of people, a lot of reason they hate Obama is because he like killed so many civilians, or that's like a big stain on Obama's legacy as this great, you know, bringer of unity or whatever. He actually just like killed a lot of civilians. Maybe not the road you want to go down. Now, obviously, I can't say with 100% certainty that they were civilians, that it wasn't a military gathering. But we do know that these intelligence agencies get shit like this wrong, and maybe you don't want to just brag about it so blatantly on social media. I was also disappointed by this reply from Data Republican, the Death Note show, saying perfection. It was disappointing for me to see this because I really like her, and the reason I like her is because she's very feminine in how she engages with people on Twitter, meaning that she's never like rude or boisterous or like, you know, displaying like this kind of like chauvinism. It's just weird. It's just jarring. You think you know somebody, and then they're just like, awesome, you killed those people. You're like, whoa, that's not, I don't know. I get people die in war and shit like that, but it's just like, I don't know, man. You don't even know who these people are. Like, you don't know. You don't know if you're getting the right information from President Trump on this. It just seems a little bit sketchy to be like, yeah, fuck them. I'm glad they're all dead. You think you know someone, then you find out they watch anime. That's a good one. Oh, shit. All right, let's talk about Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony some more. So Metcalf's father has been on this like apology tour of won't somebody please think of the poor murderer suspect and everything he's going through. And he's just been continuing in that vein.
And the fact that, you know, someone was immediately taken into custody, they know who did this, they are charging him with murder. I mean, how does that make you feel that police immediately got this person?
First of all, I feel sorry for that individual because he's now made a mistake that's going to cost him the rest of his life. The hard part that cost me is I lost my son and his brother.
First of all, I feel so bad for the bleep. I feel so bad for the black teenager who murdered my son. Secondly, I lost my son, so that's also bad. But let's not lose track of, first and foremost, this kid. He's ruined his life. Please think of him.
Was holding him, trying to hold the blood in, and he passed my son.
Now, they immediately tried to set up a bunch of GoFundMes for this guy, and GoFundMe kept taking them down because GoFundMe doesn't allow violent criminals to raise like defense or anything like that. They took down Daniel Penny's for the same reason. They don't allow you to give money to people who are charged with like violent crimes. So they moved it over to Give, Send, Go, which is a lot more liberal with allowing people to have their fundraisers stay up. I posted this one a couple days ago on April 5th. They had $44,000. Here's the link to the live Give, Send, Go, where they are currently at $171,000 and rising. It just keeps going up and going up. You could literally like sit here and refresh the page. I mean, look at this. In the last 2 minutes, hundreds of dollars kept coming in. Like it's just money just flooding in for poor Carmelo Anthony. This is the official support fund for Carmelo and his family during this challenging and difficult time. The narrative being spread is false, unjust, and harmful. As a family of faith, we are deeply grateful for all of your support during this trying period. Your prayers and assistance mean more to us now more than ever. More to us now more than ever. And this massive fundraising campaign, ongoing, constant raising of funds, almost 5,000 donations in about 72 hours, comes in the wake of like a massive misinformation campaign from the Black community rallying around this murderer to take his side. A 4.0 student. Yeah, did you know he had a 4.0 GPA? Did you know that? A football team captain, a leader, a protector, a role model. But spoiler alert, none of this shit is true. They just make shit up. They just make shit up and spread it around, and Black people lap it up, just like you can tell them that the original samurais were Black and the original Vikings were Black, and they like, I knew it. We up in here. Oh, shit. That's right. That's right. The white man tried to take we invented everything. We invented everything, but the white man tried to erase us from history. Carmelo Anthony is the kind of young man every parent hopes to raise. He speaks with respect. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. He takes care of his younger siblings and little cousins. He works hard, stays out of trouble, and carries himself with dignity. Yet here he is behind bars, not because he was looking for trouble, but because he was the aggressor. Not because he was the aggressor, but because he refused to be a victim. They jumped him, outnumbered, attacked. He fought for his life. And now instead of calling it what it is, self-defense, the system is trying to make him the villain. The real bully is gone, but Carmelo is the one paying the price. The media won't tell you the truth. They want to spin a narrative to stir division, to push an agenda, but we won't be silenced. We demand justice. We demand fairness. Charge the other attacker. Drop the charges against Carmelo. Let the truth be heard. And then you got this one. This is from Chief Shilson of the Frisco Police Department, April 3rd, 2025. A statement from the Frisco Chief of Police. I don't know if I can get this a bit bigger for y'all.
Bliss Chillin sent $3. He's a sharp kid, really on the edge. Always has a handle on TH situation. Sweet as a caramel.
Thank you, Bliss Chillin, for the $3. Authorities are still investigating the recent stabbing of Austin Metcalf that happened at a track rally. However, it has come to our attention that a number of far-right bloggers have been spreading misinformation on social media about the incident or intentionally omitting the details and circumstances that resulted in the stabbing. We are also disturbed by the number of news articles that have been posting highly misleading and vague headlines falsely insinuating the victim was stabbed and killed at random. So just for clarification, we would like to reiterate yet again that this was not a random or unprovoked attack. Our department has made that clear numerous times in news interviews and press conferences. It was also not racially motivated. The victim was stabbed during a mutual combat altercation that the white teen initiated with the suspect. Austin started a confrontation with the suspect because by demanding a seat at the stadium that the black teen had first. Because by demanding a seat that the black teen had first. Austin then sucker punched him in the face and moved his phone down onto the bleachers, causing the screen to crack during. The track rally did not have any assigned seating at the stadium for this event, and patrons and the suspect were free to sit wherever they wanted in the facility. Both teens then got into a mutual combat brawl after the white teen punched the suspect in the face and Austin got stabbed while that altercation was taking place. So the suspect did not this is how police talk, by the way. They capitalize not. This is how, when the chief of police puts out a statement, he's like, the suspect did not, all capitals, randomly stab Austin in the heart after he was told he was sitting in the wrong spot, as several bloggers online have inaccurately claimed. The suspect is claiming self-defense, and a grand jury will determine if this was self-defense under Texas law. The suspect was charged with murder strictly as a preliminary measure before we knew any of the facts on what had led to the stabbing. The charges could be reclassified or downgraded as more evidence is reviewed. We will not allow bad actors try to create racial division in our community by spreading intentional misinformation. And on it goes. As some of you more astute in the audience may have already guessed, this was not, in fact, the Frisco police chief putting out an official statement. This was a fake post circulating. Also, I closed the tab, but the guy in the post, he had like a police badge. The guy who posted that on Facebook, he had made his profile photo look like a police badge. Experts say posts falsely claiming to be from Frisco police chief appear designed to raise doubt about the investigation and provoke racial tension. And I already mentioned this on Saturday, but that's not the only thing they've been putting out. There's a fake autopsy report going around that Austin Metcalf was high on meth and died, and actually didn't die from the stabbing.
These are the same people that call Ethan Liming's killing mutual combat and the Knoxville horror consensual sex.
Yes. I don't know what the Knoxville horror is. I don't think I want to know either, but thank you for the $5. So they also were spreading around a fake toxicology report, which anybody who knows anything knows that you don't get toxicology reports a couple days after someone dies. But claiming that according to the coroner, he had died of a meth overdose, an MDMA overdose. And not, this is it right here. Oh, 9mm SMG. That's my mutual. So this tweet went viral, and then other people were sharing this around. So this shit's just spreading all over, which is why you have black people rallying around this guy and giving him almost $200,000 and counting. Not that this is really like anything new. This is an update. 4.0 GPA student, honor roll student, by the way, and captain of the football team. New information about the investigation into the stabbing death of a 17-year-old Frisco student athlete. CBS News Texas has learned from law enforcement sources involved in the investigation that 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, the suspect in the murder of Austin Metcalf, had previously been suspended for bringing a knife to school. Law enforcement sources tell us that 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony should have been in class at Centennial High School and was skipping school yesterday when he allegedly stabbed Austin Metcalf following an altercation. We have not received a response from Frisco ISD. Today we spoke with Austin Metcalf's father, who says online postings about what caused the altercation are erroneous. He says it started when his twin sons questioned Anthony about why he was standing over by their school's track team instead of his own. Austin's father says he can forgive what happened to his son, but believes the teenager accused deserves the death penalty if convicted. So, all right, well, there's a little bit of a redeeming, if true, moment for the father. I tried to corroborate that this morning. I tried to Google that and find any other source saying that he was calling for the death penalty. and I couldn't find it, but this is an actual journalist, verified CBS account here posting this. So, you know, I said it at the time. I'm like, yeah, look, man, you can forgive him while he's swinging from the tree. You know what I mean? Like, you can forgive him, but justice still needs to be served. Seems like, according to this, the father actually agrees with that. So maybe he doesn't deserve as much shit as he's been getting. But as I was saying, this thing rallying around the killer, it's nothing new. And like all this fake shit about he's a honor model student and this and that, the captain of the football team. He's actually like a thug who's brings knives to school and skips class and shit like that. But it wouldn't matter. Like, this is the O.J. Simpson verdict aired live on Oprah's show in 1995. And when they said Simpson was guilty, or innocent rather, of the obvious murder he committed, they all the black people cheered and all the white people looked around in horror. So it's always like this. It's just that white people don't have the same kind of tribal solidarity that black people have. So when it's the other way around, it's not like this. You know, white people don't rally around Dylan Roof and say that he should be forgiven and demand all the families of all the victims to forgive him and think about his plight. There's something else I was going to say about this, but I lost it. Anyway. National Conservative Long Island High School was ordered by the state to drop Indian mascot, is now being sued by the local NAACP boss for adopting the Spartan. Lawsuit says mascots honoring white people violate the civil rights of blacks. The school is 87% Latino. So they had a mascot of an Indian. The state said, you have to change your mascot. That's racist. And they said, okay, we'll go with a Spartan. And now they're getting sued again.
A parent in Long Island, New York, suing a local school district after it changed its school mascot from the Indians to the Spartans. Because it was lefties said you can't call it the Indians anymore, so they changed it to the Spartans. The name change coming last year after a new state law requiring school districts to stop using indigenous names, mascots, logos, get rid of all that stuff. The unhappy parent, William King Moss III, is also the local NAACP leader, and he, using the name Spartans, this is what he says, is racist. It's racist to use Spartans now. I think they're Greek, aren't they? This is a racial issue, he said. You cannot put this into play. If you have to get rid of one race, you can't replace it with another race. You can't be the Brentwood Jews. You can't be the Brentwood Zulus. And you can't be the Brentwood Spartans. Plain and simple, this is what he said. He also called Spartans a symbol of white supremacy, and he complained that the Spartans discriminated. Listen, this is one of my favorites. He claims that the Spartans in ancient days discriminated against women because they didn't allow women to fight in their military.
Jeez. What's the school name? What's the school called? Anyway, the merchants, they changed their mascot to a happy merchant. They call their team the Merchants. Hey, you can't do that.
To go and get killed. Now, this is like low IQ theater. Pretty amazing stuff. But I got to say, the Spartans race. The Spartan is not a race.
That's right.
You know, let's start with that.
Get the facts.
that's not that crazy to say it's a race. Like, they're Greeks, right? Yes, they are Greeks specifically from Sparta, the city, the city state. But that's kind of like if you said, oh, the Cherokee race, and somebody's like, oh, Cherokee's not a race. That's like a specific tribe. It's like, actually, race can mean that. Like, race and ethnicity can be synonyms. You can say the German race or the English race. You can say that. It's not that crazy. It's just not, people just aren't used to like talking that way.
Right, at least as an upstate New Yorker, this has been going on throughout that state. The woke politicians are trying to erase history, and you have radical activists like this gentleman who are trying to upend what's going on in local communities. Now, as somebody who thinks that the Washington football team should go back to calling themselves the Redskins, obviously I'm firmly opposed to what they're trying to do here. But it's just the sad state of our country. The left wants to just change traditions and history and make it align with their politically correct image.
And Chris, I'm also a New Yorker, and I'm actually a Long Islander, so I thought I'd look into Brentwood School District. And a recent Newsday report found that Brentwood School District, at Brentwood, just 28% of elementary school students and just 26% of middle school students tested at or above the proficient level in reading and math. So
Brentwood, the Brentwood Merchants. Hold on. Brentwood School District. I know they already said it's like 75% Latino, but how funny would it be if like the other 25% was white, basically? And they're like, only 25% of the students test at grade level. %2 white. 87% Hispanic, 7% black, 2% white. Well, what could have been really funny is if she said, they only test at like 25% of them test at grade levels. So how can it be white supremacy if the school isn't white? She just like said it like that and just left it at that. Like, obviously, if there was white people there, the grades would be a little bit better. Let's be honest.
this guy, who is a former educator at Brentwood, should know this and should be focusing his time and
Brentwood lowriders. Oh shit, the Brentwood cartel.
Energy on ensuring that the kids are actually learning and not on this completely nonsensical radicalism. There's an opportunity cost here. You focus your time and energy on DEI and all of this stuff. You can't focus it on what actually matters, which is education.
Yeah, the myth that if only we stopped talking about the mascot, suddenly the students would be good. I don't know, lady. Shane Cashman, we recorded this a few weeks before Boring jumped ship at the Daily Wire. So this is from like a month ago or whatever, before Jeremy Boring left the Daily Wire.
People in this space get really uncomfortable if you start to criticize Trump or Elon.
Yeah.
Right? And, I spent, despite being blacklisted from the Daily Wire, I was there for election night because I was there with Tim. And I wasn't able to do any shows, but I was only IRL. And I'm sitting next to Jeremy Boring, just listening to him say repeatedly, like, Elon Musk is the greatest living American. And I was getting nauseous because I'm like, to a degree, he's very close to Andrew Tate, but you don't like Andrew Tate. They both leave a wasteland of broken families. They're both like promiscuous degenerates, in my opinion. But it's okay to not like Andrew Tate, but you can worship Elon just because he's on your team right now. And I can't stand that. Right. And that he has in my opinion, Jeremy Boring has no moral center, and he'll do whatever he has to do to sell his candy and whatever. Jeremy Boring has cam girls, wage slave cam girls, just like Andrew Tate did. We know that through the Crowder tapes. He literally talked about having wage slaves who sit in front of cameras. So I don't like him, and I don't like that attitude. And I don't like that they feel like they have to say things because it's going to echo throughout their base. So now.
Well, Jeremy Boring said Elon is like the greatest person alive or something like that, according to this guy.
Ben Shapiro's happy and Jeremy's happy.
Tim, what is he? He is with Tim. I don't really know who this guy is. He's got the Timcast logo on his Twitter account. Is he in the music videos, the Tim Pool music videos?
But I find them to be some of the most condescending anti-intellectuals in this whole space. And their gatekeeping, we're watching it happen now where they will probably start to decline. Or they already have. You see the numbers yesterday, like Candace has now gotten more viewers, I believe, than Shapiro.
Yeah.
And it's because, look, you don't have to like everything Candace says, but she is now literally open to having more conversations, right? And that's all I ever wanted. I want to have more conversations. I don't have to agree with the people. I think.
Oh, was he the guy? He's the guy who came out in defense of Eliza Blue. Oh, man, there's a name I've not heard in a while. She really disappeared, huh? She really just dropped off the face of the planet. Oh, she still has a Twitter account and she tweets? I stand corrected. I haven't heard of her in like years. March 22, here's a picture of my cat. Anti-Antrali, I don't know what that says. Well, that's nice for her. She's still exploring fantasy core and just having fun. I don't read DMs. So I'm trying to remember even what the fuck was the deal? Like she was talking about sex trafficking, and then she was like a giant slut who made promiscuous videos. Was it basically that? I can't even remember exactly the finer details of the controversy. But
Titan sent $100.
Whoa!
Happy Monday, brothers and fellow copers.
Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate that. Great to get off to a good start this week. Thank you, my man. And then this guy, I guess he wrote like an article defending her because everybody was posting like her personal photos and that, her like slutty pictures and shit like that. If anything, you should be blacklisted over your Eliza Blue story. Okay.
Andrew Tate is a degenerate. I would still interview him, you know, which is funny. I was supposed to interview him right before the Eliza story. You know, they had that weird like history with like her and the survivors allegedly. I was going to fly out there and interview him. And back then I really didn't know who he was.
Oh yeah. She was like a trafficking victim, right? That was her story. And then she was coming out as like an advocate for trafficking victims. And then people found out she was like basically a whore. They're like, you kind of trafficked yourself a lot. Like, what are you talking about? Now she's into fantasy core. So again, you know, never kill yourself, because you might feel like you're at your lowest, but a few years later, you have a big following in the fantasy core world.
Other than Tim was like, I talked to him, you know, years ago. But I want to talk to everyone. I want to hear their perspectives and then let the audience decide how they feel, right? I'll pepper my opinions. I'll say, you know, my piece, but watching the Daily Wire control that narrative is exactly why I left places like The Atlantic.
In this clip, Sam Harris goes after Lex Friedman for interviewing Putin and Ye, the All In podcast for Kremlin Talking Points, and Joe Rogan for hosting Holocaust Deniers. I guess that's Martyr Maid. Daryl Cooper. Is he the Holocaust denier or is it somebody else? I don't know.
Right. And this is something I've complained about with Lex Friedman, right? I mean, Lex is another very nice guy. I don't think he's ill-intentioned at all, but I mean, he's going to sit down with Putin, really, and conduct an interview. That's going to be useful for the world. I mean, that seems extraordinarily unlikely to go well. I mean, I would love Lex to prove me wrong there, but I saw how it goes when he talks to people like Tucker Carlson or Kanye West or any other controversial figure. So some of those conversations have been just disastrous founts of misinformation. So it is with the All In podcast guy.
Holding my breath until Sam.
When someone asks about the JS, just show them the Jewish and crowd video, then the Barbara Lerner spectacle.
Yes. Jewish and Proud video. I'm not sure which that one is, but I know the Barbara Spector clip. That's a well-known clip in anti-Semite circles. Thank you for the $5, Funkle Lester. Appreciate it. Anyway, as I was saying, holding my breath until Sam Harris talks about all the disinformation being spread about Carmelo Anthony starting now. He sure loves to talk about COVID disinformation and shit like that, but he'll never, well, I mean, I shouldn't say he won't or never, but you understand, he won't tackle the racial angle when it's something like that.
Right? Like, I don't know, I only know Jason. I've met David Sachs once, but I can't say I know him, but I was a big fan of their podcast in the beginning. When they were talking about,
sent him YCSP and told him to watch it. You did that before or after the message? What did he say about the show? Keep us posted if you're waiting. Oh, dude, I had no idea this stuff was happening. Yeah. If you watch YCSP fairly regularly, you're probably a little bit more tuned in to the current goings-ons than the average person. I guess I'm proud of that a little bit.
Just business stuff and entrepreneurship, and I mean that was fun and useful, and I think they were giving a lot of valid information there to people. But once they got political, once they got deep into once David Sachs began spouting Kremlin talking points, quite literally Kremlin talking points, though he would roll his eyes at that description. And they were completely unencumbered by any, valid journalistic or academic correction of this, Dunning-Kruger effect that took hold over there. It's been a disaster.
Boring. How do people listen to this guy, man? like unless you're trying to fall asleep, how do you actually listen to this dude? Yeah, he's just another one of these guys who thinks that the masses, the unwashed masses can't think for themselves. They can't be allowed to show things that aren't curated by the intellectual elites who all agree with exactly Sam ways of thinking. I mean, that's part of the irony is somebody like David Sachs would be considered like an elite. Right. But it's not even just that. It's that you have to be an elite, but you also have to be completely aligned with Sam Harris in order for you to be able to talk to the unwashed masses and tell them what they're supposed to think about anything. This was in YCSP last night. This is a funny little clip. Black South African visits white separatist town, Orania. Can't believe how safe it is.
This is Orania. Jesus greeted me. Everyone's waving. Everyone is waving.
Again, the common misconception about racism. I can't believe they greeted me. Why are they smiling? Why are they waving? Why are they being nice? Because you are a sojourner, and like the Bible says, you're supposed to give people like that hospitality, but people like that are also not permitted, much less supposed to, plant roots and stay with you. You're there for a visit. We'll be nice to you. We'll give you some hospitality. You get your content or whatever, and then you got to get the fuck out. But they really go into these communities. You know, it's like there's that place in America, the most racist town, where that one funny dude is. He called into the show a couple times back in the day, that Tom guy, the most racist man alive. And so black dude, like YouTubers go to that town. They're like, this is the most racist town in America. And everyone's just like super cordial and will sit there and shoot the shit with him and talk to him. Even that guy, Tom, who is actually racist and will be like, yeah, I don't like black people, blah, 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 blah. Like he's still like super cordial. It's very funny how the media has twisted people's perceptions of racism to make them racist, to make them like this caricature, this like hateful, irrational, violent, angry caricature, and it's just not like that in real life.
Okay, that's confusing.
That's confusing.
Are you nervous to go there and be the only black person in Orania?
Nervous is not the word. I think uncomfortable. But everyone has been telling me, stay safe, stay safe. I'm not scared at all. I've been in crazy places before, so I don't feel unsafe, but I feel it's going to be different and uncomfortable. Big cars, Orania flag, doors are just open, no gates. There is a statue of Hendrik Verwoerd, the architect of apartheid. Okay, there's kids. Kids are just walking around. They're kids just walking around, so it's definitely as safe as people think it is. Bicycles is hanging up, not locked. It feels...
A black guy driving a car can identify an unchained bicycle at like 600 feet. That's a skill. That's a skill that they develop over time. They, at a glance from far away, they can be like, that bike's all locked up. Oh, shit.
It feels different. It really does feel different. You can feel that this is not, it's South Africa, but not South Africa. This is Orania.
Right. Allison sent me this one this morning. Let's see. She said it would be a good reaction clip.
Hi. Yeah.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Honors.
My dad has been domestically abusing both of us for 22 years. I have all of the evidence to put him away. We are not going back in that house. I will not move until you guys believe me.
Crazy woman. Got it.
Psychological abuse.
What's he been saying?
There's bruises in my mouth. I have photos of bruises. I have photos of how he's abusive and how he speaks to us to point such psychological abuse. What education did you guys have? What did you need to do to become a police officer right now?
Oof. Bad angle to take, lady, if you're trying to get help from these people. She needs to read How to Make Friends and Influence People. I've never read that book. I don't read self-help shit, but she needs some help. She needs to work on her people skills.
60 college credits.
Okay, so
21 years old.
So you have what?
Completed 8 months of training.
Two semesters of college? How much do you get paid?
60 credits.
How much do you guys get paid?
2 years of college.
Okay, so 2 years. How much do you get paid?
I mean, you can Google that if you really want to know. I mean, I'm trying.
An advertisement for blacks to come and steal the bikes. I wonder, like, are they just too secluded? Are they too out in the boondocks? I wonder how they deal with that. Or if it just hasn't happened yet. They must have, I mean, I'm sure that like a lot of them are armed and that. South Africans are, you know, Afrikaners, the white South Africans, they're pretty like hard people, you know what I mean? Like these are guys who own guns and know how to shoot and shit like that. So they're probably not too worried about it, but yeah, I think also they are just like out in the, they like bought like a desert that was super cheap because it was shit land. And then over the course of like a few years turned it into like this little oasis, this little paradise. Yeah, they're just secluded. That makes sense. That'll only save them for so long, unfortunately.
I just got here. I want to hear your side of the story.
Do you know how many years of education I have?
You called us here for help, and ever since
I
I've
am.
been here,
Have you
you've been nothing
spoken
but
to?
abusive.
Because what? What is abusive? Can I? Are we in a safe?
Yeah, they cast white man spells on the dirt to make the dirt magic, and a civilization sprouted up from the ground.
Are we in a safe location to tell you evidence of what goes behind closed doors? Have you ever had behind closed doors training? Do you know what behind closed doors means?
Have you ever had behind closed doors training? Do you know what behind closed doors means?
Do you know what that means? What he does inside of the house when no one else is looking. He beats us inside of the house. Can I show you evidence of him beating us inside of the house? I don't want to be near him.
Okay, we need to talk to Dad.
What he's okay, go talk to him, please.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on her dad's side. He might be abusing her, but she probably like was yapping. You know what I mean? She probably deserved it. No, I'm just joking. It's sad when people are crazy. It's very sad. After learning of the murder of 3 British girls, Lucy Connolly wrote, "Mass deportation now, set fire to all the effing hotels full of the what is that, bid? I don't know what that is. For all I care, while you're at it, take the treacherous government and politicians with them. I feel physically sick knowing what these families will now have to endure. That makes me racist, so be it." Yeah, totally normal reaction to 3 young children being murdered. After she took her dog for a walk, she returned home and deleted the post. It was visible for less than 4 hours. Despite that, she was arrested and denied bail. Lucy is being jailed until after her daughter turns 3 for a post on X. She was sentenced to 2 years in jail for a tweet. In the UK. And Russell Brand has responded to his rape allegations, saying that he is not a rapist.
Hello. Firstly, thank you for these incredible and overwhelming messages.
Oh, bastards. That's sort of what, man. A little more clue. A B and then an apostrophe and then a D. That could be bads. I don't know. There's, come on, man. Give me a little bit. Give me a little help here. If you're gonna censor your tweet, make it a little bit more legible.
Of support. We're very fortunate in a way to live in a time where there's so little trust in the British government. We're very fortunate, I suppose, that this is happening at a time where we know that the law has become a kind of weapon to be used against people, institutions, and sometimes entire nations that will not accept and tolerate levels of corruption that are unprecedented. I'm speaking particularly to those of you.
It's kind of a funny thing to say. He's like, he says, we're lucky. He really means I'm lucky. He's like, I'm lucky that I'm getting charged now when people know that governments are corrupt and that the law is a weapon, which I guess is true to some degree. He still has to beat the charges, though.
You that are watching this in the UK, how do you feel about your legal system right now? How do you feel about some of the high profile...
How do I feel about the legal system? Ask me after Carmelo Anthony's trial.
Cases that are not being pursued and prosecuted. How do you feel that the...
By the way, that's part of the reason they rally so hard around these cases is they want to affect the outcome of the trial as well. So with Ethan Liming, they got the charges knocked down bigly. And then as we saw, that guy was out of jail 6 months later, committing a bunch more crimes. That's what they want. They want to get the charges knocked down. They want the money. They want it all. And they just somehow instinctively know how to like, It's like just like they instinctively can recognize a bicycle that isn't secured. Years of chimping out activism has trained them to know what kind of talking points to put out for to cause the sort of social unrest that they require to achieve their ends.
Southport murders were handled. How do you feel about the government of Keir Starmer? Now that's just sort of general context. I've always told you guys.
Yeah, Iori. I said the same thing when I first reported on that. I said that it's like crazy that 20 years later you have to prove you're innocent when there's like no evidence to begin with. I think the statute of limitations on rape should be probably like maximum 10 years. I don't know. There could be exceptions. Like it's a little bit, you do want to be careful saying that you just can't charge people after a certain time, because there could be cases where there is ample evidence, but in general, it's like 20 years later is crazy. How much do you get paid, LP? Paid by what? By who? Pretty much all of my money is from donations from you guys. And then I get paid a little bit by Twitter and Facebook as well. That's gone down. That used to be like Twitter and Facebook. And I have YouTube monetization, so I get a little bit of ad revenue from YouTube too. But the Twitter one's gone down so much that but anyway, like 75% of my income is donations from you guys. I couldn't say the things that I say otherwise, because I don't get sponsorships. I don't get any kind of offers like that. Because even when they do, like I mentioned with Influenceables, they come in and they're like, hey, we want to work with you. And then I never hear back from them after that because they look into me more. So I can only say some of the things I say because you people support the show. So thank you very much for that.
But when I was young and single, before I had my wife and family, we're just out of shot over there, my beautiful children, I was a fool, man. I was a fool before I lived in the light of the Lord. I was a drug addict, a sex addict, and an imbecile. But what I never was a rapist. I've never engaged in non-consensual activity. I pray that you can see that by looking in my eyes. I want to thank all of you for your continuing support. I want to let you know that our show will be on Rumble on Monday. Thanks for your support there. And of course, I'm now going to have the opportunity to defend these charges in court, and I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Yeah, the old Noble Gold. That was nice while it lasted. I do sometimes get offers, but it's always for like the worst products that I have no interest in promoting, or they want to pay me like 8 cents or whatever. Actually, a lot of times.
Sent $3 brought to you by racist internet schizos.
Thank you, Bliss Chilling. A lot of the emails I get, it's like, hey, we want to send you this $20 piece of junk, and in return, you like review it and make a video reviewing it. It's like they don't even want to pay me. They just want to send me something that I wouldn't even want, even if it is free, because it's literally just like clutter and garbage. I do get those offers, but I don't get good offers. What made Noble Gold good was they paid me enough that it was worth it. I made about $375 for every time I put one of those ads in my videos. So that was nice while it lasted. All right. That's the show for today, everybody. Not a super long one. You know, I was really working overtime to get that almost 4-hour episode of YCSP out. So now finally I'm kind of caught up on all that. Thank you everybody for watching. Big shout out to Titan and RDX for the big donos, and everybody else. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You guys have a great day, and I will be, gaming stream tonight, and also progress report on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Okay, the return of the progress report. You guys have a great day. I'll see you later.